Yo, hello, it's Friday. Thanks for joining me. My name's Ben, and I've been making a game called Broken Mind. Cheers. Well, today is the day that I decided to release it. It wasn't planned, I didn't have any grand expectations of today. I just thought, well, you know what, it's at a point where I should probably get some feedback and, see what people think. I've been working on this game for 3 months now. Uh, Built it in GB Studio. Never used GB Studio before, so sort of had to get my head around that. Had to write the story. I had the story in mind from my previous game called Broken, which I was building in Unity. Get to that maybe a bit later, but so I had to write the story. I had to create some challenges, some puzzles, and piece it all together in this retro device from the 90s. And it's been fun. I've really enjoyed it. And I'm really happy with it, actually. So today, as I say, is release day. Not making a big song and dance about it. For those that watch these videos, you know I normally have a drink and just ramble on a bit about the progress I've made or my thoughts and my decisions, and that's kind of what I wanted to do today. Really, was just bang on a little bit, perhaps just for my own benefit, because yeah, it's interesting to keep track of this sort of stuff, isn't it? And journal it. And I prefer YouTube. Well, I don't prefer YouTube. I just prefer video because it's easier. It's like talking to a friend almost. Although that friend is turning into a bit of an asshole from what I hear. Like with YouTube's new rules and whatever, you're not allowed to swear within the first minute or something. I don't have lockdowns, whatever. Like, I don't really care about that. Anyway, so the game is available on itch. It's on available on Netlify. Don't know why I'm finding that so hard. You can get the ROM and play it on actual hardware, which is cool. So, and you can play it on your mobile. So you've got no reason not to play it, really. It's all free apart from the ROM version, which is a couple of quid slash dollars. However, itch.io translates that into your local currency, but it's less than a pint of beer, especially these days. It's less than a couple of pints of beers. Yeah. So the reason as I say, I was building this in Unity, and I reset that game about 3 times. I rebuilt it in Unity about 3 times, and I kept rescoping things, taking things in and out. I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to go with it. I was kind of learning Unity as well at the same time, so it was quite easy for things to get messy. And I figured at the time when I saw Gameboy Studio, this looks kind of cool and simple. Let me just have a little play and see what I can do, see what it can do, as I normally do with like game engines. And I had a little play, and yeah, kind of enjoyed it. And then I thought, well, why don't I just try taking this grand idea of a game that I've got and really scale it down and try and fit it on some retro hardware with the restrictions of the Game Boy, and you got to learn a few things about what you can and can't do to develop a Game Boy game, even with GB Studio. Like, I know it's designed for non-developers, but I still feel like there's there are challenges, technical challenges, which are completely legit because of the hardware restrictions. But yeah, you have to bear those sort of things in mind. So it is very easy to build a game, but you do have to bear in mind there are some restrictions. You can't go guns blazing at it. And one of the things I realised afterwards, actually, as I was making this game, and my game size, for example, I think it's at 172 kilobytes, which to me, it's almost laughable because it's so small. Until you realise that the original Game Boy cartridges were, I think they're 32 kilobytes. So then you're talking, okay, well, I've actually got to really compress this game. Not so much so as these days because there are cartridges, and I'm going to I'll find, yeah, well, I've already found a guy who will put this onto a cartridge that can handle it. But yeah, it's stuff like that, we take for granted these days. But it's kind of interesting to hit those issues. So the story, I spent a lot of time on the story, and I think actually that's probably one of the biggest benefits of doing this game is actually getting the story tied down, written, and reviewed, tweaked, and tweaked again, and tweaked again to actually come up with which I think is a kind of cool ending. The original idea for my game was, with my Unity build at least, was for, well, my very, very original version was an alien invasion straight out, like War of the Worlds, what would happen if. Then it turned into, well, we had all that shit with COVID, and it's like everything just seemed crazy at the time, like all the things that were going on back then. So much went on back then, and I've even forgotten now. But like just things like those silver monoliths appearing in the desert, crazy shit like that, which was kind of cool. And not seen anything like it since. So it went from that to being inspired by like modern sci-fi TV shows that were popping up on Netflix, and how can I incorporate that into one sort of game? So taking all that inspiration, like tweaking it and playing with it, I came up with this storyline of like, you being in the coma, and your wife is by your bedside. She obviously, there's a very, very deep relationship between you and your wife, clearly, because you're married. She wants to be with you. You think you guys. No, I'm not gonna. I don't want to ruin it all, but like basically, yeah, she wants to say goodbye properly because you ended up in this coma through a car crash, and she felt like she was robbed of that opportunity to say goodbye to you properly, and all the nurses and doctors essentially saying that you're going to die anyway because you're in a coma and things aren't looking good. What happens is there's a strange turn of events. She ends up essentially committing suicide, believing that you two will be together in another world. A bit like Romeo and Juliet, you wake up roughly around the same time she's just passed. There's someone else there who's been involved and knows what's going on. And at that moment, when your wife passes, you're given the opportunity to decide what you want to do. So do you want to choose love and take a gamble and meet your missus and say goodbye properly and ask, what the hell was she doing or what was she thinking? Or do you want to choose life, which is, you've just overcome a massive challenge of coming out of a coma. You can choose life and start again, essentially. So that's the choice that you as the player will make. Is like, what do you want to do? And there's different endings for what you decide. And I'm really happy with like how that's actually turned out. Although in the Game Boy version it feels a bit rushed, partly because I didn't want to overload the player with loads of narrative and loads of text, because there's quite a bit to get through. But that's been an interesting exercise in its own right. Just writing stuff and trimming it and trying to find words that incorporates a sentence, and really focus on just getting the message across as quickly, as sharply as possible. But I would ideally, and this is where I think my Unity build will be better, I would like to expand on that and develop a bit more of a background, a bit more of an understanding as to the history of you and your wife, So when you come to make that choice, it's a bit more impactful, It's not, there's a bit more emotion attached to it. Like, oh, should I? What would I actually do? The sci-fi element as well with the love side of things. That could do with a little bit more, I'd say, backing. It'd be cool to explore that a little bit further, perhaps look at some crazy ass shit that's probably happened in the real world. I know films have explored that scene as well. So maybe like developing that a little bit more and giving that a bit more backing, a bit more believability. So again, when you come to make that option, it just makes you think, I don't know. So that's where, the story's at. It's there. To me, it's like it's almost like a prototype of a story. I think you could develop that a hell of a lot further, and you could go off on many angles because there's a few characters in there. You could expand on those characters, give them more history. You know, as the viewer or the player, you could get to empathise with them a bit more, which you don't really do in a Game Boy because it's kind of short. You got to be quick, haven't you? And actually splitting the bloody sentences so they fit on the screen is an absolute nightmare. You don't get many character spaces, so you've got to start dropping words down and trying to fit it on screen. So I'm actually sort of really hyped up for doing the Unity kit build now. Not done with this just yet though. Not the Game Boy thing just yet. There's a few more things I want to do. First of all, it's like just get it out there, get some feedback. There's no doubt some changes I need to make and bug fixes that I need to do. I'd like to add a bit more audio because I've realised like making music on the Game Boys, it's not my cup of tea. I really struggled with it. To be honest, like I found it really boring. I couldn't get infused with it, and I think maybe it would have been a bit easier if I had a MIDI keyboard or something like that, just to quickly experiment with things and change samples. But yeah, unfortunately I just couldn't get behind it. That being said, I do think it needs it, but it needs a lot more thought. I really like my menu music because that's really sort of distorted and disjointed and has that robotic feel to it. And all the music at the moment has a tick and a tock, a tick and a tock, and that's all because like you're in that coma state. You've got machines in the background that are pumping and bleeping. They'll all be on some sort of rhythm, and I thought that'd be kind of cool to introduce into the music. It's like, you know, every music track has that tick tick or of the machines that like subconsciously you might be hearing while you're in a coma. I'm no coma expert. I don't know if you can hear anything when you're in a coma. I'm making this shit up. I actually did do a bit of research on comas, to be fair, and none of what I've written or put in the game is out of question. Yeah, some people have reported similar experiences, and you know, so that's kind of cool. It's not too far from the truth, but I'm not talking from first-hand experience by a long shot, and nor have I spoken to anyone about it. So yeah, fiction anyway. Cheers. That's kind of where I'm at with the game then. So the Game Boy game, yeah, as I say, it's done. Wait for the feedback, fix some bugs, maybe add a few more features. I want to get this on the cartridge, a physical cartridge, because I definitely want that in my Game Boy. Brand it up. I want to do the box and manual. I also taken. I want to do like a little book as well, visual book, and take some of the art from the game and match that with the story, which I've started, which is cool. I think I might try and sell that as well. It's like a limited edition run or something. So you get the book, the game, the manual, maybe like a little token of some sort. Yeah, why not? I definitely need to do at least one for myself. I've then got another idea for the game before I hit my Unity build, which I don't want to say what it is just yet because it's a bit of a long shot. I'm not expecting it to work, to be honest with you, but I figured it's worth a shot, and I've not got much to lose if I do it, other than about 50 quid. But you know, sometimes you have to take a gamble in life, and I think it's worth a shot. And if that pays off, of course I'll do another YouTube video on that. But for now, yeah, I'm going to keep that a little bit quiet. And yeah, I'm trying to hold off from launching Unity because I know the minute I do, I'm going to be back into that world and cracking on the game. I'm going to start the game from scratch actually when I do open Unity, for the 4th time. But I think based on what I've got here, I've got a really good template now. I know how I build it differently in Unity as well, and I probably would use scenes a lot more rather than trying to encompass everything into one big scene. And there are nightmares in the Game Boy version, which I'm not sure I would keep. I was almost going to delete them from the Game Boy version, to be honest. But they do keep the story moving, and they do give a reason for the character to do what he's doing. So that's something I need to think about. Anyway, in general, that is me done for this evening. The game is on... Did I say this? I've done this video twice because I first one up and I can't remember what I said, but it's on itch. It's on Netlify and mobile, and the ROM's available on itch. Yeah, I did say that before. Do let me know if you download it, if you play it in any way, shape or form. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to know what decision you made at the end of the game. I think to me that's really... I'd love to know that. Like, I know what I would do, but what would others do? I almost thought, I wonder if I can track that and like, have some sort of chart to see option 1, option 2, just to get an idea of what people would do if they were in that situation. What else to say? Got the Game Boy Interceptor. I've got a load of Game Boy gear now at the moment. I've gone from a Game Boy Color to a modified Game Boy Color with the IPS screen to a Game Boy camera, which I'm looking to do some hackery on at some point, maybe. My Game Boy printer cable, so that I can get the images off the Game Boy. Interceptor cart, so that I can record directly onto my screen what's going on the Game Boy, which is awesome. And my little ROM cart. All the gear. All the gear. I'd like to finish it off all the gear, no idea, but actually I like to think I've got a bit of an idea, and I've actually used all this gear to create an interesting game. I'm not going to say it's like groundbreaking or mind blowing, but interesting. Right. I think I should shut up now. Probably finish my whiskey. And what time is it? 11:15. Probably go to bed, upload this and go to bed. See what the feedback's like in the morning. Anyway, thanks for watching. Do give us any feedback down below. Follow me on Twitter, /ZeroSims. /ZeroSims. And yeah, laters.